All right. I guess I can move this like this because we'll be able to see. Is that better?
Oh, yeah, wait. Oh, you need to block it off.
I think it's delayed, no?
It's gonna be delayed. It's gonna be delayed.
Okay.
What's going on, guys? Hopefully you can hear us. This is Alberto and Nick. We're going to be talking today about the infrastructure in Mexico and what that means for investors. So before we get started, let me get this camera organized. And hopefully you can hear us. If you can hear me, I think we have one person right here. Can you just write in the chat? I want to make sure that the microphone is working.
Yeah, Lawrence saying there are people there. They didn't see us.
All right, can you guys hear us? You can hear you, thanks, I can hear you. Okay, William and Jack can hear us. All right, cool. So this is right, it's working. All right. So what we want to talk today about is the infrastructure in Mexico and what that means for investors. And if you guys want, you can write your questions down in the chat, and that way we can answer them as they go. So one thing I guess I want to start off with is how I've been living here in Playa del Carmen and going back and forth between Tulum and Cancun and Playa and Puerto Morelos for like almost 3.5 years now. And the other day I went and stopped over in Puerto Morelos where the cenote, the Ruta de Cenotes is, and they have a huge, the train is coming. I've driven to Merida a few times.
Yeah.
Everything is like the tracks are already laid down there.
Yeah.
Yeah. So every time we go to Tulum, like I get lost. New roads are opening up. I'm like, wait, no, I didn't turn here last time. And so the infrastructure is here. It's coming and it's growing. And what does that mean for?
It's not just, I mean, the infrastructure is super important, right? But it's a combination of both the government and the developers that are really putting the money into this, right? There's so much money invested into this region, into Cancun, Playa del Carmen, Acomar, from Cancun all the way down to Chetumal, right? And right now we're going to focus a little bit more in this region of, Puerto Morelos and Tulum. And what you'll see is if the government can't keep up with the progress, the developers have enough money in their pocketbooks and their bank accounts to start paving roads. They're connecting electricity themselves. They're doing the sewage themselves. And they're doing it in a way where the movement is now, where they learned from Cancun, they've learned from Playa, now we're in Tulum, they're doing it more sustainable, more eco-friendly, more, and it's not just destruction, it's not just pavement, it's not concrete roads,
Yeah.
But you can tell, you're 100% right. I mean, when I got here in 2007 to live, so I've been here for 17 years, and everyone's cries, oh, Playa used to be this, and Tulum used to be that, it was like this,
Yeah.
it was a zen, I'm all for, small little fishing village, but I love progress. I think progress brings a lot of wealth to the populace and the people around here, right? And I've seen the differences, and it's just leaps and bounds, and then the construction and the infrastructure, when the government putting in new roads, government putting fiber optics used to not be here.
Yeah.
There was parts of Playa del Carmen didn't have internet, just as little as 10 years ago. It's not like this hasn't been going on for 100 years. These are very new towns. It's not relatively new, right? I mean, even Cancun itself was what? It was like 3 hotels in the 60s and 70s.
Yeah.
It's nothing.
That's one thing that I think investors forget is, like buying a property in New York, that's been around since 1700, 1800s. Whereas this state of Quintana Roo is only like 50 years old and it's maybe 16, 17, 18% developed.
Mhm.
So
Yeah.
you have the Caribbean Ocean right here, you have this train coming, you have the weather, which is amazing, like all year round. I
All
can
year
ride my
round.
motorcycle every day, play
Yep.
golf.
Yep.
You have the train, I said, the airport, and this infrastructure coming. And then, yeah, it was a small fishing village, but things change. And
Yep.
when things change, the infrastructure is gonna kind of show up out of nowhere, and then it's gonna kind of settle out and level out. So from an investor standpoint, what do you think?
There
Yeah.
is the amount of growth that's happened in this region, the governments couldn't keep up with it because everybody saw the hidden gem that was the Riviera Maya, right? For example, the highway that we drive on right now here in Playa del Carmen, that bridge is 11 years old.
Over by
You know.
Porteo and Torres?
No, the bridge here in Playa del Carmen.
Oh,
I'm
yeah.
talking the bridge, when you pass that Argentinian restaurant and you go up,
Yep.
that bridge is like 12 years old. And before that, it looked like the road right here in front of you.
Okay.
That's how it was all the way down, from here all the way to Tulum. So the infrastructure, the money the government's putting into this region of Mexico is astronomical. I mean, it's a good thing that the Mexican government sees this as a huge investment opportunity for themselves to bring in tourism. We keep on beating our chest saying that, we had a record number last year. We had 30 million tourists arrive to the Cancun airport last year. This is national and international. I'm not saying it's just external people coming to the country, to this part of the world, but the government is investing millions of dollars on the train, on the airport in Tulum to decongest the Cancun airport, to disperse the occupancies in different parts of this region to where now they're expecting to have 3 to 4 million people arrive within the first year into the Tulum airport. So you have the train that takes people from Cancun. Now you don't have to get in a car and drive for 3.5, 4 hours to get to Chetumal. Now you can fly into Tulum, get on a train, you're there in an hour and a half.
Yeah.
I mean, this infrastructure is opening up regions. Well,
So I mean, I remember the SD card.
are we disconnected?
Yeah. All right. I think that
Yeah. Just want to check that.
SD card. Why does it have to use memory if we're streaming?
No, it doesn't go in soon.
Yeah, probably.
Which one of those is my cards?
Yeah, this one here is still on the.
Yeah, the good one was mine, obviously. So make sure we keep that clear. Make sure we don't, Can they still hear us?
Maybe, yeah.
Well, then I
I
won't
don't
say anything bad. Like what I ate for dinner last night or something.
All right, it works.
Okay, there you go.
Car full.
I'm recording the video like it's gonna be recorded.
Okay.
Yeah, it just needs to stream.
So you guys can still like.
I can see it, yeah.
Yep.
That's right. You should get it like this.
I'll just keep talking. while I fix the
Yeah,
camera.
okay, go ahead.
So an investor can feel you basically here's a funny analogy. Not a lot of people want to be, Christopher Columbus.
Like,
Right?
Or,
I personally am not a Christopher Columbus. I would not be the guy that gets on a ship and says, I'm gonna go ahead and sail across the ocean, not having a clue what's there. And I'll let you know what happens, right? I'm not that guy. I'd rather be the guy that waits back in Spain. And I want that telegram sent to me saying, hey, it's cool, come on over, and I'll come. I'm not gonna go there and, and figure out if it's there. So the investors now, you don't have to, you guys aren't being Christopher Columbuses here. The infrastructure is already here and they're going to continue making it better. And your investment's solid because the government's backing it up, So, and then on top of that, you're missing out on ground floor pricing either. So it's not like you're not too late. This is like, you know, there's trends in everything, right? There's real estate, for example, in Cancun, they're on their fifth wave right now.
Okay.
You know, overall in time, Cancun's had its ups, its downs, had its really bad downs. And right now it's on its fifth breath. And this fifth breath in Cancun is epic. I mean, it's epic. They are crushing numbers they've never seen before, ever in the history of Cancun in real estate sales.
And this is real estate people building, or
Both.
buying.
This
and, like,
is
they-
investment building, creating new towns within Tulum, within Cancun. You know, you've got a place called, I'll throw a name out there, Kukulcana. You know, look it up. Kukulcana is a massive development of basically a town that they're building in Cancun, and they're reinventing everything. They're kind of taking the Tulum style and vibe, and they're putting in Cancun now.
It's close to the racetrack, the motorcycle racetrack over there.
I think so.
Yeah,
Yes,
I know
it's huge, dude. It's massive,
Yeah.
massive. So, you know, they're on their fifth wave. Playa is on they're on their third wave right now, and they've had ups and downs, but right now it's stable. You know, Playa's not going to have any more crashes coming down. And Tulum, I like to call it the studio crash, right? The studio unit crash, right? Because it's had, you know, it had its downs, and then it started going up. It had a really crazy bump in the past 5 years, and now it went down again, but it's going to restabilize itself. You know, the next 5 to 10 years are going to be amazing. So you haven't missed out on any kind of investment opportunities. This is still ground floor, groundbreaking, you know, pre friends and family, if you want to put a name to it, but you're not missing out. Now, 10 years from now, you're going to wish you did something now.
Yeah,
You know,
exactly.
that's where we are right now.
That's
That's
how
where we
it
are right now.
always is.
Exactly.
Man, I wish I bought, you know, when I was thinking about it.
Yeah, you know, and there's always a percentage of people that want to be those Christopher Columbus guys. And normally those Christopher Columbus guys have expendable income.
Yeah,
Right? Those are the guys that
that's
have,
your Mahawal area, or
but those are the guys that, go ahead.
no, well, I mean, I know I've been to Mahawal, there's people buying land there, but there's no infrastructure there.
No,
And that's like a Christopher Columbus spot to
It
go
is.
to, is like,
it is.
once the big developers get there, where they're building Hiltons and, you know, shopping centers or something there, which I don't know if they will, but that's gonna be, someone's gotta go there first before I would
Absolutely.
invest
No,
there.
absolutely.
You know, I'd buy a piece of land or something, sit on it for,
It's
but
20
you have to have
20 years.
expendable
It's
income.
20, that's what I'm saying. The Christopher
Yeah.
Columbuses that bought in Playa 40 years ago, there was no infrastructure.
Exactly.
There wasn't, in Tulum, there was no infrastructure. These guys were Christopher Columbus, and they were prospecting, and they were buying pieces of land with the thought, or maybe the idea that maybe one day it's going to be developed.
So, this group is on the Google Meet. Give it a minute. What is it? They were on Google Meet. No, it's okay.
So, we good?
Yeah.
Okay. So the Christopher Columbus guys are the ones who are going to make the highest return on your investment. Why?
It's
Because
high risk,
it's the
high
highest
return.
risk. It's the highest risk. So these guys are buying jungle with nothing, like just literally just jungle in the middle of nowhere, and waiting for civilization or progress to eventually get there. And they're basically waging a bet. They're just betting on this area, right? Based on you know, I mean, it's a calculated risk. They're not just buying jungle in the middle of the Amazon saying one day we're going to have a freaking hotel there, right? I mean, it makes sense on what they're doing, but that's also a different level. I'm not at that level. I don't have, you know, millions of dollars of expendable income that I can just go park somewhere for 40 years. My family doesn't have that kind of money, right? So, but what I do have is when somebody's already done that, and there's already an infrastructure being invested in there, and now I'm getting a chance at the second wave, which is these developers are now splitting up their pieces of land, they're selling it to developers, they're getting at a super amazing cost per square meter price, which then transmits that price over to us as investors, and we can still make 300-400% of our money. Might not make 1,000% like these guys are making,
Yeah.
you know, but we're going to make 300 or 400%, which is, you're not going to get that in New York,
Exactly.
you know?
But then it goes down to how it has to be an educated, thought out, like data-driven decision, right?
Absolutely.
So when you're looking at making an investment here in, whether it be Tulum or Playa or Cancun, you know, the proximity to the train is something that is going to obviously skyrocket the price of the land, right?
Mhm.
But then each one of those markets, Cancun, Playa, and Tulum, have different types of people that they attract. I know when I speak with a lot of people about buying in Tulum, they're like, oh yeah, I want to be close to the beach, or I want to get a 1 bedroom or something like that. But when we look at the data, is the main attraction to Tulum is not necessarily just the beach.
It's not.
Like there's projects that are being built 20 miles, 20 minutes outside of Tulum, up Cova Avenue, like towards the Cova pyramids. And then you have to look at, one, we don't have financing here. So without financing for a developer, it's easy for them to build 1 bedroom apartments.
Yep.
Right. And now we have this huge influx of 1 bedroom apartments or 1 bedroom condos, however you want to say it.
Mhm.
And they'll build them in 200, 75 unit places. You have to think about resellability after, right? And you have to think about the supply and demand curve of who's coming to Tulum.
Absolutely.
So when you think of that is, well, how do you make sure that your investment, if you do buy a 1 bedroom, because there is no financing here, the way to make sure that that is something that is going to be worth your while and make you money is boutique and unique, where
Absolutely.
you're going to stick out in a good way. And what's the first impression of anyone that's going to come there are the photos on Airbnb, like what attracts them. So you have to have good interior designing, good photos, good location. I mean, I wouldn't say in the middle of nowhere, region 15 right now.
Right.
But if you bought a project right now that's going to be ready in 2 years in region 15, the infrastructure is going to come.
Yep.
So there's like all these factors that you have to kind of pay attention to to make that educated decision of, where am I going to invest? And then where the infrastructure is coming, right? So region 15, I mean, we'll talk about Tulum because that's what we're doing. Chichen Boulevard is going to be, I think, like
The main avenue.
your Fifth Avenue here in Playa. It's going to be a main spot. So anything that's going to be close to there is going to do well. And so, that's probably where most of the infrastructure on a micro level in Tulum is going to be built out of, right from Chichen, and spread out from there. The same way it went from downtown and it spread all the way out to Aldea Zama and now region 15 and into region 8.
Yep. The coolest thing that I've noticed is even if the infrastructure isn't done by the local government, it hasn't caught up yet. The developers are doing it themselves. I mean, this is a key important factor that helps you with they believe so much in the region, these developers, and they've got so much money invested in so many different projects that they pulled their money together to help the local government get these stuff done, And when you talk about like Chichen, or you're talking about, niche markets, or what is it? Where's a solid investment, or where can I get my guaranteed ROI? There's only 2 things in life that are guaranteed, right? And that's
Taxes
death and taxes, dude. Like literally, it's it. The only thing that's guaranteed every.
I figured out a way how to avoid taxes.
But but you're still going to pay tax.
Yeah.
You're not going to avoid zero. It's not zero. There's still a percentage in there. So I think the trend that's becoming more of a lifestyle, not necessarily just a trend. It's not a fad anymore. Is eco chic, right? Eco living, sustainable developments. Because when people normally think about an eco development, they think of no electricity, they think of solar panels, they think of low carbon footprint, which is what it means, but they also think of no profits. They don't think there's a lot of money in that. And
look at Azulik.
yeah, exactly. So now there's a huge push for lowering your carbon footprint. And what are you doing to do this? That's a niche market, but there's big money in that. There's big money. Just like what's the most expensive food at the grocery store? What vegetables are more expensive? The organic ones, dude. Organic chicken, organic beef, organic vegetables. The organic, the pure, the nicer, the healthier version of our food that we eat is more expensive.
Yeah.
Well, that should transmit into eco-friendly living as well. It should be more expensive to be a part of an ecological, self-sustainable development and make that into a profit venture instead of, I'm not going to make any money going that route.
Yeah.
And then you'll have the Instagrammable stuff. You're going to have that amazing feel and vibe. So when you go on Airbnb, you can boast By staying here, you are lowering your carbon footprint. You know, you could even do spreadsheets. You know how people do ROI? They calculate their ROI by how much money I'm going to make on this apartment after I buy it or this count of this house.
Yeah.
Well, let's do a reverse ROI. Let's do a ROI on how much money you're going to save on energy usage and how long it will take for the house to pay for itself with the money you're saving from the energy that you're not using, right? So taking a spreadsheet, doing a reverse, you know, so I'm saving 35% this year on energy. What that equates to is a certain dollar figure. Now, if you can get that to 50% or 60%, that's a value you can take off, and you can actually you can add that to your ROI, or just say my house is going to pay for itself in 15 years or 20 years, just based on the energy that I'm saving from not using electricity, right, off on the grid. Just like solar panels.
Yeah.
When you buy your solar panels, you say, look, it's going to pay for itself in 5 years based on how much energy you use, right? Exact same thing. So if you can transmit that into the new developments, new constructions, I think that's the niche. That's a really good investment for investors to look at right now, because it is not just a trend, it's a lifestyle. People are pushing this heavy, and there are developers in Tulum that are only doing that type of developments. So there's some really good opportunities right now to get involved with the eco-friendly stuff.
Yeah. I also want to touch on something where most people think that in order to get into real estate, and this is what I've learned over the past couple of years, is that you have to buy a property, and they completely forget about buying land. Like, you can literally flip land to make money. And with this infrastructure coming through, there's a ton of land with only, like I said, 16, 17, 18% of this state developed, that it's inevitable that that land is going to go up. Okay, so you have the type of investor that wants ROI and like cash flow. So this would not
At all
pertain to them.
wouldn't fit their
But
budget.
if they do have expendable, you know, cash, 50, 60 grand, you know, there's probably even less than that, or more than that, depending on where you buy.
Of course.
But you can literally buy that piece of land and then hold on to it for a couple of years. And then there'll be maybe a development that goes in. There'll be a spot that, you know, comes up, a new mall, a new space that's close by that just drives the value of the land up. I mean, I read an article the other day that the train has already brought up the price of land by 25% just in the past couple of months.
Makes sense.
Because of the infrastructure. So now they're creating this, you know, I mean, people from the United States, people from Canada, Europe, even South America are all buying here.
Yep.
And one thing that I think a lot of people forget is you can just buy a piece of land and don't even do anything with it. You don't even have to close on the piece of land technically. So there's no closing cost until you go and sell it.
That's right.
And
It's true.
you can just flip a piece of land without doing anything.
That's right. You know, a huge benefit of that, Nick, that you're talking about, if you take your 14% ROI that you make on your immediate gratification when you're buying a condo and you're getting your monthly income, and you do the factor over a year and you're getting 14%, 10%, whatever that number is. If you did that, if you thought about it more of a long-term wise, you know, if I can give you a 300% ROI, you know, in 2 years, instead of giving you a 14% ROI per year,
Would you do it?
which way makes more sense, you know? But there's a difference, right? There's some people that are using money to make money, right? So they're basically taking, you know, they've got $90,000 in their bank account, they're going to use $75,000 of that. They need to get that immediate, you know, gratification, and it's okay. So it might not be an option for them. But I mean, not to plug, but you know, we've got land right now, you know, that's one of those opportunities, you know, the Mayan train that's giving people the chance to jump in at $50,000, $60,000 and 2 to 3 years come out with 250. You're not going to be a millionaire.
Yeah.
It's not going to be, I'm going to put in 50 grand to make $500,000. You probably could if you waited, I don't know, maybe 10 years. But if you do it in 2 to 3 years, you can make that kind of returns in your investment.
Yeah.
You know, talking about land, there's places, for example, Region 15. Region 15, 5 years ago, was no man's land. In other words, it was dead. Nobody wanted Region 15. People were thinking about putting glamping out there. Why? Because there was no way to get there. There was like a road that went like halfway down to Aldea Zama, and it stopped. There was nothing. It was called Kukulkan. In Region 15, the cost per square meter was like $25.
And no,
$30 a square meter. This is just 5 years ago, bro. We're not talking about 50 years ago, man. Why? Because there was no infrastructure, right? So what did Tulum do? What Tulum did is we only had one road to get to the beach, Koba, right? And the municipality knew that there was huge congestion. There was a bunch of traffic. It was a nightmare to get to the beach. Like it would take you an hour, dude, to get from 307 to the hotel zone. Cause it was so, that was the only way in. And then there was no way out. You have to
It's
come
a
back on the
one-way
same,
road and
that
there's
was
traffic
it.
and then they
It
double
was a
park on
nightmare,
that
bro.
side and then it's
You know?
blocked.
So region 15 was on the other side on this road, it's called Kukulkan. The moment Kukulkan was finished by the municipality, they finally came to agreements with people that own the land down by the beach. And they cut down through there.
The fence was.
Yeah, exactly. Region 15 went from $25 a square meter to now it's at $250 a square meter. We're talking about in a few years, dude. This is 10 times the value of your land. So you literally returned 10 times what your value you purchased now, right? There's still opportunities like that in Tulum. You know, region 12 is going to be that way. You know, region 12 right now, you're looking at like $60 to $75 a square meter. And you have a road, it's called Fifth Avenue. Now, Fifth Avenue is not going to take it to the beach. It's going to go all the way down parallel with Kukulkan, and then it's going to cut across.
Yeah.
Right. But it's still, it might not have as much impact as Kukulkan does because it goes all the way to the beach, but you're going to go from 70 to 150.
Yeah.
You know, it's still a great investment, you know, and we have access to that kind of stuff down here. And, you know, if anyone's interested, you know, contact Nick or myself, whatever, whoever you want to, but let us know. But
The webcam went off.
waving.
I think it came back on.
So, I mean, but the infrastructure, what you're talking about, that the reason for this conversation is the infrastructure of Kukulkan was finished to boost more investments. On what? Can they hear us still though?
Yeah, maybe. Can you guys still hear us?
Just type yes.
Just type yes right here. The battery died on the camera. Can you not just plug it in at the same time? Oh, that's a problem.
There's a bunch of questions there, huh?
Yeah.
Please come to how to best reduce taxes.
All right, give us 1 second. We're just fixing the camera.
What might be the payment structure for pre-construction? You want to talk about the taxes? Or
Yeah, I can talk about Texas.
I'll talk about the pre-construction stuff. Tokenization International.
Okay.
Cool. I can see you in here. Oh, cool. Let me brush my hair. Hold on. Oh, wait, no, wrong one. There's my hair.
All right, so I'm just looking at these questions. What might the payment structure be for pre-construction, larger apartment in Tulum? You want to cover that one?
Yeah.
Yeah, do that one.
Okay.
Okay, so the question is, what might, well, you guys can see it. What
Yeah.
might the payment structure be for a pre-construction larger apartment in Tulum?
It depends on the developer, right? Each developer has different funding options, whether they have their own wallet, whether they have their own funding from their own bank, or they're just a big conglomerate of investors that have a bunch of money there and they can build without your money, right? That's one. But most of them are going to do a 30-60, 30-60-10, which means 30% down, 60% over the period of the construction, which would be either 18 months or 24 months. The longer away it is, the better it is for you, not because your monthly payments are lower, it's because you're getting involved earlier, which means you're going to get a better pricing before the price hikes.
Yeah.
Right?
So your equity is going to grow.
Absolutely.
By the time the unit is finished, you've already made money off it. It's the same concept as what we've been talking about.
It's usually 3 to 7% per hike, right? So most developers, what they'll do is they'll increase their price 3 to 7% every 30% sold. So if you've got 10 condos, smaller boutique condo, they sell 3, they go up 5%. They sell another 3, they go up 5%. Then the last 3 or last 4, they'll be at the full price that they're expecting. So you got to enjoy a nice 15 to 20% equity before you even step foot in your condo. But your question was payment options, right? So there's a 30-60-10. Sometimes if you put 50% down, they'll give you a 5 to 7% discount. Then the other 50% you do over a period of, the other 40% you do a period over, the construction, or some of them will do a 30% down and 70% at completion, where you don't have to do any monthly payments whatsoever. It's a 30-70. So most of the developers, what they'll do is give you a discount based on how much money you put down. Now, if I know you said earlier that there wasn't any financing. There's a couple of guys that are just now coming out, Nick. I'm going to show you who they are. They're new. But financing has been an absolute nightmare in Mexico. It didn't exist. First of all, there wasn't even an option 10 years ago. And then a couple of them came out, they were just ripoffs. They were just a nightmare for people to get involved with.
I got involved with
Yeah,
it.
they're just crushing you on interest rates. They were doing 15 arms, or they were doing basically they start you at 6% interest, then every 6 months it goes up a point, you end up paying like 9% and ends up just doubling your monthly. It was chaos. There are some new brokers that are doing straight 30-year, 9%, 9.8% interest for 30-year, and it's based on your FICO score back home or based on your credit score back, just like any kind of credit stuff. It's not easy. They'll do 20-80, 20% to loan, or they'll finance 80 or 30% to 70%. A lot of developers now are accepting that option, but
I know of a few. I mean,
it can be a nightmare, and
the
I've
thing is, there's
scared
no
people away.
title insurance here. So
Absolutely.
the problem when people have to get a loan is they don't have the title insurance. They're the developers or whoever builds the place doesn't get title insurance. And so that causes problems when they try to loan you money. I have a few that I'm working with right now to figure that out. I'm waiting to hear back. But once that happens, then the prices are even gonna go higher because
Exactly,
it's the American way.
it opens up
We
the-
borrow against the bank,
Yeah.
and as long as it cash flows and you buy a great property
Yeah.
and it rents, it's like that. I mean, for me, I had a really bad experience with financing here. And so, that's been, I'm not, that's for a different conversation.
I know.
So Pat,
Your
Jack,
taxes.
I'll get to, all right, so let's do the taxes. So how do you reduce taxes?
Let me get my pen and paper, hold on. I pay a lot in taxes.
So how do you reduce taxes? I'll touch on this a little bit because it's a very complex way of doing it. And I have somebody that I can connect you with to do it the correct way. But basically, you have to get your residency. And when you get your residency, if you're American back home, you would have an LLC. And in that LLC, you would do it in a state like Wyoming or New Mexico or Delaware. Wyoming is probably is where mine is. And your Airbnb account would be placed in that LLC. Now that LLC is now structured with having a holding company in another area, in another country named Anguilla. And so Anguilla is the holding company where that country is receiving the money, and then you can pay yourself out as an employee. And it's very there's a lot more to it. But that is how the structure works, right? And so to move from 36% withheld from your Airbnb taxes in Mexico as an American, you have to start by getting your residency. That is like super important. And when you get your residency, then there's other processes that you have to go through to get all of this completed. It would take, I mean, I have people that can help you do that. It takes, depending on your schedule, like you have to go to the embassy in the United States and then, or just basically outside of Mexico, go to the embassy, and I have someone that will set up a meeting for you to be able to get the paperwork done, and she'll organize everything for you. And then when you come, you get a visa printed in or stamped inside your passport. And when you arrive, you go to the aduana, which is
Aduana is not, that's your,
when you go through,
that's customs, aduana.
yeah, when you go through
Immigrations,
customs, when you go through immigration, you get a stamp, and then you have a 30-day time period to go here in anywhere in Mexico to get your residency card. And when you get that, then you upload the information into your Airbnb account, and voila.
20 years later, saving money.
It doesn't have to be, it's not that hard. I mean, I have the people that can do it for you. I have the people that can do all of this for you.
Yeah.
So that's basically the gist of the taxes.
Future development land, do you have experience with connecting plot owners with developers? And do you have experience with fractional real estate? Yes and yes. You want to do that one? Okay.
I think maybe now is here we mention a little bit about what we're gonna do.
All right.
Patrick, that's a cool question.
Yeah. So the connecting owners with developers, it's literally what we do, like on a daily basis. It's all a network, and there's not a lot of developers. There's probably, I don't know, like good ones, about 100, or maybe 200 developers down here. And connecting people, like in other words, if your idea was to buy some land in Tulum or buy some land in Aldea Bay, which is in the Ruta Cenotes, and holding on to that land and then selling it in 2 years, well, that's literally what we're doing. That's kind of what we're doing as with the school that Nick's creating, was to help get people educated, to start making smart decisions, to understand where the infrastructure is at, and in the long run, help you make the most possible money with your investments you have down here. And side note, a lot of the big developers that were developing in Tulum 5 years ago are no longer developing. They've actually moved to land. What they're doing is they're buying land, they're prospecting and buying land that hasn't been developed yet. And they're buying hectares. A hectare is 2.4 acres, right? So they're buying, 10 hectares, right? So that's 24 acres, 25 acres, whatever. And they're sitting on it. And then they start splitting it up into half-acre lots, into 6,000 square foot lots, and they start selling it to developers that want to build little smaller developments, right? But they're just holding on to it. It's not necessarily expendable income, because they're not spending millions of dollars, because this land you can get, half a hectare for 350 grand, right?
Yeah.
And you sit on that for 3 years, expecting to make 7. I mean, you're not going to get that behind a condo, dude.
Yeah.
Even if it's oceanfront, you're not going to get 350 to 7, maybe in Cabo. I'm gonna pull some Cabo stuff out, where there's some condos you buy for 350, you sell it for 650 like 2 years later, but it's very far and few between getting into that kind of stuff, and fractional is happening right now. That's literally a trend that's been being pushed, and you've got fractional with NFTs, which is literally what an NFT in the property is. You're fractionalizing it. And you also have people buying condos, or buying the big ticket 1.3, $1.4 million condos, and they're not buying the full week. They're kind of like a timeshare. I mean, I know it's a terrible word to use, but you're getting 3 weeks. You're fractionalized. You're getting 3 weeks a year. You can't afford 1.3 million, but you want to enjoy a $1.3 million home. You spend $250,000, and you got a quarter of it. Like, you literally have a quarter of that title. It's your ownership. Any kind of appreciation that happens, it all gets divided amongst the 4 owners that are there. And there's companies that are putting owners together to buy a 1.5, a $2 million, condo.
That's what Jeff is doing at WeSet.
There you go.
If you go to WeSet.io, a buddy of mine here and Nadeem are doing exactly that. They're tokenizing real estate here in the Riviera Maya, and it's really starting to take off because it's being sold as NFTs on the blockchain, and it's happening. That's what WeSet.io, Patrick. So
Where else is it? The last one was fractionalized.
it feels like fractionalized real estate would be benefit for foreign investors and no financing options. Yeah, one thing that I like about what WeSet is doing and the fractionalization is, if I buy a place, usually in traditional real estate, you have to wait for that time to come for the rentals from Airbnb. But I'll do that in a second, Lindsay. So with WeSet, you can literally go and sell your weeks up front and get that money right now, so that you can put that money somewhere else. Right. So you're tied down, for a certain amount of time. Like, let's just say, okay, for December 23rd to January 2nd, I'm going to sell that week for $10,000 because I need, that's my high season. And then you do it for 3 years. So you find a buyer. So that's $30,000 just for 1 week out of 52 weeks. You get 30 grand right now, but you do have an obligation for the next 3 years, depending on the contract or the agreement for that 3 years. Whoever bought that NFT or that fractionalized share for that week gets the rights to use that. So, there's pros and cons to it, but I think it's a great idea. If you, I mean, you could make all your money back if you do it right, like technically, and get all that money up front and then just use the time and then buy another spot or whatever, and still reap the benefits from the appreciation of
Absolutely.
the property.
And then you have the non-digital way of doing a classic fractional ownership where on
I get 1/3, you
like
get 1/3.
literally that they have it. There's houses now. And it was just sent to me a couple of days ago on WhatsApp. They sent me saying, I have this option for you for your customer that wants to spend $400,000. How would they like to buy a $1.4 million condo? And I was like, well, they can't. I just said they only have 400 grand.
Yeah.
He's like, well, no, we have 3 other buyers. We'll put them with your buyer, and the 4 of them will own it, and they'll split the year up into 4 sections. I don't know the intricacies of whether I would obviously want to have I'd rather have January. If we're going to be splitting up the year into 4,
Yeah.
I want January, February, March, and April.
Yeah.
No, I mean, there's got to be a cost difference. To get those 4 months out of the year, you got to pay maybe 350,000 versus 250, and your cost is less. And there's got to be a way of that cost got to fluctuate based on high season, low season, and where the location of the condo is.
Yeah.
But I can look into it more.
They do a lot of that in a place up north in Puerto Peñasco, which is right on the border of Mexico and Arizona. And I have a lot of friends there, and they sell like shares like that. Here, I'll take this in. Lease.io.
You don't need residency to start a company in Mexico, by the way. You don't have to be a resident. You don't have to have a Mexican here.
If someone already has residency.
Yeah, if someone already has it, it doesn't make a difference. You can do it either way. And there's also a lot of people feel that you have to have a Mexican in the corporation in order to be able to get the Mexican corporation. That's not true either. To talk about that really quickly, the benefits of whether you do the Mexican corporation or not and stuff like that. Once you have a Mexican corporation, you're required to have an accountant. So you're gonna have a payroll. You have to have an
Yeah,
accountant.
let's back up even further. There's 2 ways of buying a house.
Mhm.
I'm guessing that's what.
No, he's talking about residency with the
taxes.
with the company, no, with the company, just a company.
Oh, with the company.
Yeah,
Oh,
we're not talking about Fideicomiso and stuff like that. But once you have the company formed, it's not always a benefit. Some people feel it's like that's the way to go. I have no idea what the tax portion of it, but I do know when you have a Mexican corporation, you're required to have an accountant, whether you have income or not. If you have revenue, you got to pay someone that reports on a monthly basis the income to the SAT, right? SAT is basically the IRS, more quote unquote, in Mexico on a monthly basis. Otherwise, you're going to get yourself into a situation where it's a nightmare,
Yeah.
But to answer your question, it doesn't matter if you have residency or not. Once you get your property, it's easier to get your temporary residency because the process is a little bit faster. Because then you own a piece, whether it's in a Fideicomiso or not, stuff like that, to get your stuff down here. When you mentioned fractionalized real estate, I meant specific scenario, yeah. Pulling your funds together on the land, sign operating agreements, negotiate with developers, absolutely. You're gonna basically do an association, with a developer, and you put the land as portación is what they call it. So you're putting the land, and they do the development, and then the value, whatever your assessed value of your land is, either what you're going to get that back when they start selling the condos, plus maybe 1% or 2% premium on it for doing the land part, or you leave your land into that development. So then all the money that's made, they roll it over to the next development, and then you guys go into a bigger project, bigger stuff, more land, stuff like that. So you can do that.
Equity based on initial investments and operating. Yeah.
Okay.
Cool. So what we've been doing this 48 minutes.
Mhm.
Let's tell them, we're gonna start doing this, I think once a week,
Yep.
every week.
Yep.
And we're gonna move it to Wednesdays. I think Wednesday is
It's hump day.
hump day, so we're gonna call it Hump Day Investments.
Yeah. Yeah.
And we'll go on here and we'll talk about updated things in the Riviera Maya in this area on a regular basis. Because I think it's important to draw more attention to this. This is very hard to get this type of information. I mean, it's not a natural, this is more of a natural setting for this. So every Wednesday, we're gonna start doing this hump day investments. What makes sense, property first, residency second. Look for financial. Looked up financial residency requirements. So the financial residency requirements, I just did this with the client the other day. You have to have a minimum of like
$2,000, huh?
4,000, like it's like $3,600 a month coming in from a company outside of Mexico.
Yep.
And they require that you have a letter that says that you can work remotely. And that's one way. Then depending on your age, you can have, money saved up. Basically, if you took all of your money in your account, it has to be divided by 12. And if it's more than like $3,700 per month, then that qualifies you to get your residency. It's just making sure that you're not coming to Mexico, gonna work illegally and not pay taxes. I mean, just be a bum, really. It just, they want to make sure that you have enough money that you have saved up that, you can take care of yourself for a year.
But it's like that anywhere, huh?
Yeah.
Anywhere.
Well, not the United States. If you want to, the other way around,
No,
it's difficult.
They don't care?
To do. Oh, no,
Your income?
it is. No, but yeah, they
Okay.
want to make sure that.
Yeah, because my
But
son's going to Spain right now. He's leaving
It's a
for
much
Spain in
more
2
difficult
months.
process.
I'm 2 months, in 2 weeks.
In 2 weeks.
And yeah, dude, and we just talked to an attorney last night about getting his student visa in Spain, and they require him to have a bank account and to have at least 8,000 euros in his bank account, showing that he'll be able to pay for his rent for a year as a student before they'll give him a student visa.
Really?
So I have to, I'm like,
So dad has to deposit $8,000.
why am I depositing $8,000 in my kid's account? Give me that card, dude. It's like, I don't think so. Or I can get a letter that's notarized that shows that I'll be the one supporting him, that proves that, but I still have to have 4,000 euros in this account, right? So he has to have some form of income, even though dad and mom are the ones to be paying for his tuition like that over there and rent. But this happened yesterday. So yeah, I was super excited. You guys need to invest. I got to pay for Spain.
Yeah. So the other thing is, I haven't really talked about this, but I am launching an online course on like a deep understanding of all of this. And if you're interested, I can put something in the comments below on where to find it. And if you're interested, check it out, reach out to me, but this is going to be a consistent thing. So I'm excited to start this with Alberto. And
yeah, I think so. You know what? I'm gonna put a little not a teaser, a little whisper. I'll put a little whisper. This is gonna be evolving into something bigger that Nick and I and a couple other guys are looking at doing. That you're gonna get access to some really cool stuff that no one is gonna have access. Like literally, I'm not patting ourselves on the back, but we're putting some stuff together right now that's besides the school, where you're gonna get your education to be an intelligent investor. We're gonna have a way to help you get involved in a certain way that nobody else has access to. It's like there's some stuff working right now. Yeah, you're gonna like it. It's gonna be really cool. We'll keep you posted as time goes on.
Cool. So, all right. We will see you in a couple days. And you guys have all our emails. If you have any questions, Instagram, you can reach out to us.
You got it.
So all right.
Thanks, man.
Thank you guys.
Bye.